Hey Shells fans, welcome to Shell Me More, a podcast by August Schell Brewing Company. I'm Johnny Germscheid. On this episode, I bring in Schelly Olson, a firefighter from Colorado. We talk about Firebrick for firefighters, challenges and rewards of working in the fire service industry, and Shelly's relation to the August Schell family. So sit back, crack a cold one, and listen to Schelly Shell Me More. Thanks for coming on here today and joining me, Schelly. Do you want to just describe what you do for work?
Sure. I spent the last 11 years at Grand Fire Protection District Number 1 in Granby, Colorado, as I did mostly administration, public information, and then I was promoted to assistant chief in 2014. And through that, I've just made a lot of connections at the local, state, and federal level with our partners. And one of my biggest, passions and goals is to reduce wildfire risk in Grand County, Colorado. We're about 90 minutes northwest of Denver in near Rocky Mountain National Park, and then also we border the Arapahoe and Roosevelt National Forests.
Awesome. And then how long have you been in the fire service industry?
Since 2009. I started out at Grand Lake Fire as a volunteer. And then I went on to work on the ambulance for a couple of years, worked in the medical center for a year, and then went back into fire. And, a couple things that I do in addition to that. So I just retired from the fire department so that I could pursue some other pieces of my, life's goals and passions. Obviously, the wildfire preparedness is one. So I have a nonprofit called the Grand County Wildfire Council. And we basically, help educate homeowners, help do mitigation on the ground to help people reduce their risk. And I'm also a public information officer on the Northern Rockies Incident Management Team 1 out of Montana. So I'll be going on a lot of fires this year, I'm sure. And I also teach for a company called Mission Centered Solutions, and we teach wildland firefighters, fire service, and also law enforcement leadership classes. So those are my things that I've been working on, and
sounds like you're
obviously doing a little marketing for Schell's Brewery with my Firebrick for Firefighters.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how'd you hear about the program?
I know that Scott and I, he's one of your distribution managers. He and I spoke, and I can't remember how. I'm wondering if I reached out to him, but a little history there is that in October of 2020, we had a major wildfire here in Grand County, and my family and I had built a house in 2004 in the mountains and raised our kids there. And the East Troublesome Fire destroyed 366 homes in Grand County, and one of them was ours. And I had a lot of memorabilia, of course, a lot of keepsakes from the family brewery, because I guess it's my great grandfather is August Schell.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I think I reached out to Scott, and maybe I was asking him. I think we had a conversation about the neon signs, because I had that beautiful deer head neon sign that I would love to replace at some point. But so we got talking, and he said, we're doing this fundraiser, Firebrick for Firefighters, and I believe there's a attachment to some mental health resources for folks.
Yep, you're correct.
And so that really got me interested in what you were doing, because obviously after a trauma like your entire house and everything you own burning down it was quite traumatic. I suffer from PTSD now, and I've sought help for that. And actually, I was in Florida for like a 30 to 45 days. I did an inpatient treatment. And while I was down there, there were obviously firefighters, first responders with me. And I ordered a bunch of these Firebrick for Firefighters sweatshirts to support the fundraiser. And Scott had said, hey, we're going to put helmets, like decommissioned helmets, in different places. And I thought, wow, what a cool idea. So when I got back from Florida, I took one of our old white helmets and I made a special, they call them shields, the thing that goes on the front, and it says Grand Fire, which is my fire department. And then it says C3, which would be my position as assistant chief. And then I put Schelly Olson on it.
Is that not something then that you would typically have on there, a first name? Do you typically just have your last name on the shield?
Yep. So I put the whole name so you can see the SCH. And then one other thing that's interesting too is you see behind me, it's the 1995 painting, I guess, of the brewery with the New Ulm Fire Department.
Oh
So
yeah.
I've had this. I've had this forever, probably since I got married. It's like 25 years. And it was hanging in the fire department. So it did not get lost in the fire. So super
Wow, that's
thankful that I
really
have
cool.
this behind me.
Yeah.
But yeah, we went back to the brewery in December of 2020. So after the house was gone, we went back to visit family. My parents, my mom is there, my brother, my husband's family. And I think we spent so much money in that gift shop. We just buying sweatshirts, buying, the cribbage board, yeah. So I've been getting some collector's things back because memorabilia has just really been always a special thing for me. So
Yeah, it's fun to have that stuff around. And then did you end up with the Minnesota cribbage board or the rectangular one?
I got the rectangular one that says Schell's beer.
Yeah.
Yep, I got that one. I have a whole bunch of cans. I'll tell you a funny story. There's a little bar in town and the owners recently sold. And I went into the new owners and I said, this guy had this magnificent beer can collection. I see 10 Schell's beer cans. Do you think I could have them? And sure enough, he went to, I want to say he grew up in Edina and so had a Minnesota connection. He said, absolutely. So I have about 12 cans. I've been looking on eBay. What else do I have? I have a lot of stuff. I bought I bought those giant stickers.
Oh yeah.
And I put them on my little beer fridge in the bar. So
oh,
yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Very cool. You were talking about mental health earlier and how important is it to get firefighters mental health evaluations and just giving them resources like that and getting pre-screened for cancer. Could you talk about why that's so important?
Yeah, it's very important. I think, just looking at the culture of the fire service, we are probably the last ones to ask for help. We really think we can do it on our own and handle things. And at some point, your stress bucket just fills up and it's full of, all that stress from work, all the stress from home and family. And it just gets to be too full and too much to manage. And we need to figure out ways to, release some of that out of that stress tank. And obviously exercise and, eating right and getting enough sleep, all those things are very important, but there is a side to that you might need to, develop, go to your peer support folks and have some conversations about maybe what's happening if you're feeling a little overwhelmed or, out of sorts. Obviously, there's a lot of, cues to people going through mental health crises or issues, not being the same, not working out like they did, or constantly being angry or depressed. And so it's really important for all of us to recognize those symptoms and to really reach out and ask folks if they're okay. I mean, I think about my fire chief. And does anybody ask him if he's okay, right? I mean, he's the chief, he should have it all together. But gosh, we went through a horrible summer of 2020 being in a pandemic and then having this fire and then recovery. So, checking on your folks is really important. Getting counseling if you need it, actually going like I did, going to an inpatient facility. The place that I went in Florida is called Shatterproof, and it is strictly for first responders. So I was in a program with probably 36 other law enforcement, firefighters, dispatchers, et cetera. Highly recommend if anyone needs to actually get in-person inpatient help, that's key. We are plagued with a crisis in firefighters and first responder suicide. It's too much. And the military as well, right? It's very unfortunate and it's very preventable. So whatever I can do to, I went to Maryland. I spoke to the Maryland State Fire Chiefs about my experience. I have the operational stress at work and then also the non-operational at home, and telling them about the resources that are available. And we just need to change the culture. And it sounds like, the Schell's brewery teaming up with other entities and creating a fundraiser and awareness is a huge step. And, maybe we can spread it out. Maybe it can be, bigger than just Minnesota or bigger than just the Midwest, and we can work, across all the states.
Yeah, it's huge for people to be able to know that they're not alone and other
Absolutely.
people may be feeling this way too. And so just like you said, down in Florida, having that group of 30 or 35 first responders there and seeing kind of that they're going through the same struggles, I think it's good to be able to have people like that to lean on too.
It is, absolutely. And I think a really great part about that continues on, everyone has to go home and have an aftercare plan, meeting with your, primary care physician, meeting with, a clinician, meeting in groups. I mean, obviously there's a lot of folks that were, in AA and finding a group to talk to when you're, back in your home area. But we have a very tight connection. We formed a WhatsApp chat group so we can keep in touch with each other. We have Zoom meetings on Fridays and once a month. So just great continuing resources. And yes, you're absolutely right. You are not alone if you are feeling this way. I know when I was struck with this trauma, I felt like I was going insane. I felt like I was crazy. And it just helps to know that, yeah, you're not alone.
So then what are some of the biggest challenges when you're in the fire service? I know you get called at various hours throughout the day, and then just the physical demand that it requires. What would you say the biggest challenge is in firefighting?
Well, to start out with, the biggest challenge right now is finding and retaining firefighters. And I don't know what it's like in your area, but my fire department is mostly volunteer. And, in the middle of the night, you might not get as many people. In the middle of the day, you might not get as many people because people have full-time jobs. So I'd say the volunteerism has been a very big challenge. And then running multiple calls. We don't have enough people, and we have enough resources as far as apparatus goes, but running multiple calls at multiple times adds up. We have, because we are 2 hours away from Denver, there's if we have any, high acuity calls, major car accidents, major mass casualty, we don't have a lot of resources. And so we will need to call in from our neighboring counties, and then any injuries, et cetera, have to be transported either helicopter or ground ambulance. So I'd say, just because there's so few and limited resources, that it just really does pile up on you, and it's cumulative. And so I'd say that's a big challenge. I'd say probably another big challenge is where we are in Grand County. This East Troublesome fire went through, all the way across our county and burned up into Rocky Mountain National Park, over the Continental Divide at 12,000 feet, over to the other side of the east slope is Boulder County, Larimer County. It's the front range of Colorado. So that's where all the people are. We don't have the population over here. So whenever there's funding from the federal government, et cetera, it seems to go to the front range because it's based on density. Well, we supply most of the drinking water to them because we are the headwaters of the Colorado River. And, so the funding aspect is difficult, to get what we need over here on the West Slope. I would say just competing with, the high growth areas. What else? Yeah, grants are very competitive. It's hard to get grant money. We are in Colorado based on property tax. So we don't get any sales tax, no municipal tax. So it's dependent upon property. So that's always a challenge as well.
Yeah, sounds like it. What are some of the rewarding aspects of the job though?
We are called when people have their worst day and just what's happening to them. And you've seen in the past few years, of course, Minnesota is now seeing a lot more wildfire. And I just feel like, we are not immune anywhere to any of these disasters. And so just being able to be called upon when, anyone in any other region is having their worst day, our incident management teams respond and help where they're needed. So I think, having my perspective of being a wildfire survivor and then going into other communities and talking to people about it, I can empathize, I can relate. So that's very rewarding. just being able to solve a problem for folks, whether it be they needed batteries for their smoke detectors or they needed to evacuate during a fire. We can be there to help. And that's the most rewarding part, I think, is just being there for people on their worst day.
Do you encounter some incidents where you run into people that you know, or not too much, with people being kind of spread out more where you're living?
Oh no, everybody knows everybody in Grand County. So yes, you end up making your way to people that you know. And we don't run any medical calls because we do have a county ambulance service right here. So we are, I don't know if that's lucky, unlucky, but we don't have to deal with a lot of that. We obviously go on every car accident. We've had some very serious accidents with the mills and the mines that we have up here, with folks getting dragged into chippers and things like that. It's just been, it's not good. And it spreads across all of us. I mean, even if you're there on scene, but you maybe didn't witness something, it's still very traumatic. And especially, yeah, like you said, if you run on a car accident with people, it can be very devastating. So, yep, small communities are very special. And, New Ulm's probably one of them. They probably know the people that they serve as well.
Definitely, yeah. So when you do come back to Minnesota, were you saying that you come to the New Ulm area or more to the Twin Cities?
My mom lives in Minnetonka, where I grew up.
Okay.
And my in-laws are nearby, so that we don't get to the brewery as much. However, like I said, December 2020, we made a big point. I would love to come out when there's special events. I'd love to come to the tap house to see the helmets. Yeah. My mom's first cousin is Trudy Baranek. And so Dan and Trudy live nearby. I have to come and visit them someday soon. But yeah, I always love to drive up and see it's just, the museum is beautiful. The gift shop is beautiful. The tap room. So
when you come back to Minnesota, what's the first type of beer that you're drinking?
I would say that Firebrick is my favorite. It always has been.
Nice.
It really has been. I love, I'm not a very hoppy person, but yeah. I'd say Firebrick. And, we can't forget about Northeast and Premium.
Definitely.
Those are good too.
Do you ever get to any type of college games or sporting events when you come back here?
Yes. The last time I came back was September, and it was the Gophers. Was it Gophers versus, I can't remember. Yeah, Gophers versus, I think, Colorado Buffaloes.
Oh, nice.
And that was what I drank. I have a picture of me drinking Northeast.
Oh, nice.
Love to support the family business.
Definitely. Have you converted any of your firefighter pals out west into Schell's drinkers or Grain Belt drinkers?
Definitely. When my mom would drive out here before the pandemic, I'd put in an order. My husband's parents, same thing. I'd put in an order, and they would bring a bunch of Firebrick and a bunch of Premium for friends that I knew they loved it. So
it's always good to have a little taste of home, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I tell you, I have a picture of my refrigerator, my beer fridge, and it was lined up with we had the sampler, so we had every different kind. And when we used to go to old Chicago back in like the 90s, it was on tap.
What was that, Deer Brand?
I believe it was probably Deer Brand. Yeah, because it was before Firebrick existed. So gotcha. I'd say like 94-ish, you could go into old Chicago and get Deer Brand on tap. So those were the days.
That was kind of your spot, huh? What's your favorite place to go to drink Schell's when you come to Minnesota?
It's hard to say. I don't really know.
Just any place that has it, maybe. Huh?
I always ask. Yeah. When I went to South Dakota to teach, I and bring it up to those folks. Hey, anybody, from Minnesota, anybody know Schell's? And somebody said Grain Belt. But they don't know. They have a lot of craft and a lot of microbrew in South Dakota. So there wasn't a lot of folks there that had it. So I don't know. What's our distribution area these days?
So it's Minnesota, Wisconsin, South Dakota, North Dakota, Iowa, and Nebraska.
Okay. So we just got to move a little bit over to Colorado and include us.
We're slowly migrating west here.
Well, you got some folks out here that could totally help.
Definitely.
A good retirement gig, right?
For sure.
Tell me a little bit about, really quick, how it works when the money is donated to Firebrick for firefighters.
So it goes to nonprofits in different states where we sell. So those 6 states. And so for Minnesota, the 2 that are accepting donations are the St. Paul Fire Foundation and then MinFire. St. Paul Fire Foundation works mainly with the St. Paul Fire Department to give firefighters access to mental health resources. And they also do some stuff with cancer screenings. And then MinFire does the same stuff there, except for departments throughout the state. So
great.
Yeah.
That's really wonderful. And you have a wonderful facility there in Minnesota, obviously the Betty Ford Hazelden area. I've heard great things about, that resource. It's not just for first responders, obviously, but a good place I've heard about. So anyway, well, thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate you taking the time, and thanks again for the helmet and everything.
Please send me a picture of it and let me know if you need anything else.
Okay.
Love to help however.
Perfect. I appreciate it, Schelly. It was nice talking to you today.
Yeah, you too, Johnny. Take care.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
Now we're going to hear a Tedbit from brewery president Ted Marty. He talks about how Firebrick got its start and how it got its name. Here it is.
So Fritz used to, when the contract brewing started, he used to say that the difference between a contract brewer and a real brewer was the boiler, because you made steam to run your whole process, right. And a contract brewer doesn't have any of that. So we just took it a little farther. So the boilers are always lined with Firebrick, and hence the name Firebrick. And we wanted to do a beer that was somewhere, not like from regular beer to full malt, high alcohol, high hop, somewhere in the middle.
Called it a step-up beer.
Yeah, so you could kind of move up.
Develop your palate.
Yeah, so that's how Firebrick got started.
That was some great insight from Ted. That's going to do it for this episode. Join me for another round next time on Schell Me More.